What is up, YouTube? So today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. I have done one of these videos before. It's just been quite a while since I've done one. Map has changed, things have changed, so I want to update everything a little bit. As you can see on your screen, you've got the map, you've got your red buff here, you've got your boars here, your speed buff here, your blue buff here, small harpies, fire creep, mid harpies, all your normal stuff. So let's get all that off the screen. Your normal map, just more of like a 3D view, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about warding. We're going to talk about how to ward, where to ward, when to ward, all that stuff. I'm going to try to cover as many of the roles as possible fully. I might miss some things here and there, but we will go ahead and talk about that. So early game, as a support, you're usually going to be the first one to ward. Usually ward before, like as the game is starting. You run out of the base, you ward, you back to base, and then you run to your lane. You run to your buffs you're going to do. Usually when you ward, you're looking at warding mid camps to see if they do something different. Warding red buff, see if they do something different. Usually that ward dropping at red buff can be kind of, this ward right here can be kind of risky if you don't get out quick enough because people can catch you. If people realize you did the same thing over and over and over again, you will start to get caught. So change up where you ward, but usually you just want to get a little bit of vision. You want to know if they're invading or doing something crazy. You can ward boars if you want to, but usually using warding red or mids is ideal, and that's pretty much the best option as a support. Now the next person to ward is usually going to be your solo or jungler, who can also ward at the start if they want. If you're warding at the start, you ward speed buff. Make sure they're not invading. If that's what you're worried about an invade, you ward speed buff at the start of the game just to make sure that's what they're doing. If you don't see them on the speed buff, that means they're doing something different, and if you were worried about being invaded, they're probably invading. Now, you will still be as a jungler, if you do that ward early, you will probably be the next person to start warding too. Usually on my first back, I will buy boots 2 and a ward or 2 wards if I buy 2 wards as a jungler. Usually you want to be placing them very deep into the other team's jungle because the rest of your team doesn't have that opportunity. You're running around the jungle, you're farming, you're doing this and that. You have a little bit of downtime occasionally when you do that, or you run past the other team's speed buff or red buff. That's when you want to ward. I like to ward the speed buff around, I'm not sure the exact time, maybe between 2 and 3 minutes. On your first back, you get boots 2, and then after that, I carry around 2 wards. I try to get a speed ward in here just to see whenever speed respawns, if they're doing it, all that stuff. Red ward, whoops, about that. Red ward over here, ideal. Just to know if the red buff has been done, if you can invade it, if you can clear it. Also, if you ward deep, if you ward red right in this area here, you can see any jungle pathing through this way. Same with speed. If you're warding here, you can see if the jungler comes up, does back harpies, and is coming that way to gank solo lane. So it gives you that deep vision, the vision of, hey, someone's coming to your lane, like you could potentially be ganked, and it's not even like you have to call it, they can see it. It gives your team the vision of worrying about whether they're going to die or not. So next is going to be kind of a mid and jungle ward area. Usually controlled heavily by the mid is going to be a lane ward. Now this is probably the least understood ward in the game. So I'm going to try to break it down a little bit. The mid lane ward gives you vision of whether the mid and the jungler go left or if they go right. So you're going to know whether they go into duo side or solo side, right? This ward right here, that's going to tell you that. No matter what. So you can say, hey, they headed this way, be careful. Hey, they headed that way, don't die. If you go to gank the solo lane, say you and your the mid and jungler path this way, and you're going to gank this, and instantly you see the other team's mid and junglers shoot this way, they're probably going to Gold Fury. So you can backtrack, you can cancel that pathing and go back right across and defend the Gold Fury. It just gives you a lot of safe vision. Now, the reason this ward is even better is no team on a regular basis is going to counter ward this lane ward. Because if they're counter warding it, it's costing them more than it's costing you, and they're not getting any vision out of it. They gain nothing. If they counter ward that, the only thing they do is they remove your vision of that exact spot, but at the same time, they wasted gold to do it, and they don't gain any positive vision in their favor. That ward doesn't help them know where you're going. So that ward will very rarely be dewarded, so it's very strong. It's just a safe early, mid-game, sometimes even late-game ward to have down. Now, with that being said, you move over to your other outside of the lane wards. That's probably one of the weirdest wards that most people don't understand. The most normal wards are going to be your mid-harpy wards. This left side, the gold side, is probably going to be more prominent. You're going to have your supports, your mids, and your jungles all fighting over this control. If you can have these two spots controlled, you will be able to gank safer. You'll be able to do Gold Fury safer. These wards are used for baiting fights a lot. If you ward here, you can play here and come around the corner. If you ward the mid Harpies, you can come around Gold Fury and fight. It just gives you a lot of control. Now, this ward on the other side of the map is more of an aggressive ward. You see when the other team goes for their speed buff. You see when the other team goes for fire creeps. You see when the other team is going to gank solo lane. You also see if they're coming to mid Harpy. So if you have this warded as, say, a Thor, you can ult from this side of the map all the way over to here. It gives you more of a aggressive positioning type of thing. It allows you to, when you're looking for those fights, that's a good strong ward. It's less of a defensive ward. Now it's the same thing on the other side of the map. If you're this team and you want to ward the mid Harpies, you can ward here and do the exact same thing. Look for them pathing into mids, look for them pathing to fire, or over to the solo lane. It's also really good for invading speed. Just like I said, you should have speed and red wards down when you can. Now we're talking about ward positioning a lot. I want to let you guys know that counter wards are the best ward. If you can afford a counter ward, you should always have one down or one in your inventory to place. Having vision control allows you to get objectives, allows you to gank, allows you to farm. It just opens up the map and allows you to do much more. Most people, when they're told to ward, they worry about regular wards too much rather than counter wards. You should always be buying a counter ward. It's super good. Maybe not in the very, very first ward. Those are obviously normal wards. Maybe in the first 2 minutes, regular wards are okay. But then after that, you really want to get a counter and a regular. I put my regular wards as the deep wards in the speed, regular wards in the lane. All those wards that aren't going to get dewarded are very, very strong. As I said, you could even be warding down here, here, or here. All regular wards. Those are the regular wards. Your counter ward spots are your mid Harpies, your Gold Furies, even your boars over here, depending on how your ganks are going. Those are going to be your counter ward spots most of the time. And of course, your fire and your regular, whatever, your fire wards. Now, the reason I'm not focusing so much on Gold Fury and fire is that's very situational. Sometimes your support's going to place his ward here to counter ward at mid Harpies, and then you need to be, as a mid or a jungler, as a ADC, whatever, needs to come and drop that counter on gold so you guys get control of that. Same goes for Fire Giant. Now, for me as a jungler, I want to emphasize the deep wards, the regular wards at the back Harpy, speed buff, red buff area. These kind of wards are all very, very strong. They give you the most vision. They allow you to know which side of the map you can gank, which side of the map you need to tell to back off or be careful. Those are really, really important as regular wards. And then all your counter wards, usually for me, end up being dropped to defend these heavy ward spots. The mid Harpies are probably the number one, followed by Gold Furies. Those are where most of my counter wards go. I would have to say that mids are probably the same. The mid roll is kind of the same, except for instead of warding deep by speed and back Harpies, their regular ward is usually going in the mid lane. So that's your mid lane wards. As a support player, you need to make sure you have control for your ADC. So warding, whether it's defensively or aggressively, just on the boars, super important. Maintaining mid Harpy control for your mid and jungle, super important as a support player. And then also gold control. I've skipped over the offensive wards. This is also another spot for mids. So if your support is controlling those spots I just talked about, as a mid, you can ward these mid Harpies on the Fire Giant side of the map and just control and be aggressive and look for fights. It's all about the play you're looking for is where you're going to ward. It's all based on that. Then as an ADC, it's kind of the same as a support. You want to have control, defensive. You don't want to get ganked. You want to have your boards controlled. You can ward red buffs. They're really strong to ward. That gives you that vision of who's doing red, who's coming that way, like the jungler or the mid. And then you also want to help out on mid control when you can. It's not as prominent. And then Gold Fury control is like the next in line. So boars and red, pretty important wards for you. Gold Fury, pretty important ward for you. And then help out at mids if you have the time. As a solo laner, you're warding a lot less because your control of the map is a little bit different. You're kind of stuck on your side of the map. Having an extra ward around blue buff is good just to see if it's up, see if anyone's coming. Those are strong wards. And then holding your counters, usually for when you teleport or you rotate over and you need to get mid control or Gold Fury control, are where your counters go. So that will be warding for you as a pretty much any player in Conquest. Try to cover regular encounters as best as I could. As long as you don't want to blow too much gold on your wards. Remember, you can only put 2 wards down at a time. You don't want to waste your wards by placing them down and then having them cleared. So if you're going to go and you're going to clear the other teams, say you're this side of the map, right? You're where the swirly red is. you want to counter ward their side of mid Harpy. So you run up and you counter ward. You walk away. The other team's gonna walk right in and counter ward it, and you really wasted your time there. Other than now, you know they have a counter ward there and that they have vision, which usually teams do unless they're not playing very well or they're not high level. Now, with that being said, what you would really want to do if you can communicate with your team is come up and counter ward, have your support counter ward this mid Harpy area or your jungler, bait it. If the other team comes in, you can fight. Your mid and jungler should wait right in this area. Now, you can also place a ward here, as I was talking earlier, and then have your whole team sit behind the wall here, and then you swoop around and you fight. Or you could even sit in the mid Harpy area, come around and fight. It's a really good area, or even this side, even on their side of the map. There's a lot of corner play is what I call it, and you hear it said a lot outside, like within the player community, is you can play the corners and look for easy kills, because a lot of the time the support is going to come up and counter your counter. He's going to be like, all right, free ward, and then you can kill him. You can kill supports that early part of the game, that first minute to 10 minutes. You can kill that support. You can kill whoever wards that very easily, or at least burn beads. So this is where grouping up as a team, using your lockdown properly, your Sobek plucks, your Athena taunts, your knockups, your stuns, all that stuff properly is really, really good and allows you to get poke. If you can get control or pressure out here and get some poke or a kill, that instantly will lead to a Gold Fury. You path right into the Gold Fury and you're good to go. So that is pretty much full-on warding. The only thing I didn't cover is that I was saying how you ward Gold Fury with your counters, and everyone needs to control that. Once Gold Fury's down or fire, it's later in the game, Fire Giant. Just switch those wards to Fire Giant side, and it's all the same. When you're doing Fire Giant, if you're this side of the map, you really want to have control of their side of mid Harpies, their speed, their blue area behind here, and Fire Giant. Those would be your ideal 5 counter wards. Would be, let's have Fire Giant control, #1 priority. #2 priority is probably going to be this mid Harpy area, because if you don't have the mid Harpy area controlled here, they will swoop in behind you and it will hurt very, very bad. Next up is going to be speed control, because anyone with a global like a Thor or something that can get in, Thor, Ratatask, or whatever, they will usually ult from this area. So you will see them going up in the air if you have that vision. And then having these wards by blue and back here allows for no one to come around and try to steal, or no one to run right up the middle and try to steal and get in, because these areas are the closest. Usually you're going to play the choke points as a solo or a support, and you're going to block these ward areas pretty easily. But just having the vision just to let your team know what's going on. Those are your ideal 5 counter ward places, or regular wards if the other team is so far behind they're not trying to battle for ward control. So there is your vision control. It's kind of the same for the other side of the map. I will cover that really quickly. So if you are this side of the map, you really want to ward mids. You want to ward in here by their speed, their blue, backside of the entrance area, and then Fire Giant. There's your 5 counters, and you are good to go. So hopefully this video helps you guys. Hopefully you guys understand all the wards a little bit more. I get questions about that mid lane ward the most, and then just what to do and when to buy wards. You buy wards as many backs as you can without wasting gold. If you feel like you're falling behind because you're buying too many wards, you probably are. But you need to make sure you have vision control. It's important. It allows for you to win the game easier. It makes the game a whole lot smoother. And it doesn't make you work as hard. If you have vision control, you don't have to think as hard or figure stuff out or risk stuff as much if you know where the other team is. It's that simple. So hopefully this helps you guys. Leave comments below if you have any questions. I will try to answer. I'll just make another video to answer them. And yeah, I will see you guys in the YouTube video tomorrow.
Sacred stone. Oh, this you crazy mother.